Hi, and welcome back to Under a Rock with Brielle and Guerlain. Today, in this episode, we are talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender, Book 2, episodes 6, no,
7, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9.
Mm-hmm.
Why is 6 afraid of 7? So, let's jump into it.
All right, let me get my little handy dandy notebook.
Ding!
Okay, so this episode, Zuko Alone, is such a good episode. It really gives us a lot of very interesting backstory into Zuko, and I think it really helps humanize him for us. I mean, obviously, he's been, humanized for us before, but I feel like this kind of backstory into his childhood really helps us as the audience understand why he is the way that he is. Um, yeah, and I really like it. This episode also is very like Western inspired,
Mhm.
and I don't mean like Eastern Hemisphere, Western Hemisphere. I mean like Western movie, like do 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 do, like that
Right.
kind of Western. The whole episode has very like John Wayne, like Shane vibes. If anyone's ever seen that movie, if you haven't, it's good. It's a really excellent Western. Um, the whole idea of like a stranger coming into town, he doesn't say much about himself, but he helps out this like poor family, and the young boy kind of admires him and looks up to him, and he saves the family, and then he leaves again, solitary and alone. Like that's a very like Western,
Mhm.
and I think that's fun. I think that's cool that they kind of did that as like the theme or the feel of this episode.
I wasn't aware of that until you told me when we were talking about starting the podcast.
Yeah, I remember having this conversation with you that it was very like John Wayne Western.
Mhm.
Again, this episode uh shows the idea that it's not just firebenders who are bad in this world, it is earthbenders too, because this town is being like terrorized by a group of earthbenders who are supposed to be like the police, are supposed to be protecting them, but they just end up hurting them. So once again, it's reiterated to the audience, to us, that it's not just good and bad. It's very mixed and gray and everything.
They weren't really police. They were like soldiers who weren't in the war.
Oh,
Like they were
okay.
in the war, but I guess they were stationed there until
Oh
someone
yeah, I
called them.
mean, yeah, kind of
Um,
like the National Guard.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Uh, a common trend I'm seeing here, and I only say common because I've seen this in like other shows,
Hmm.
is that they always depict soldiers or army guys as jerks. I was like, why is that?
See, they do and they don't.
Mm,
I mean, see, in America, I don't know how it is in other countries, but in America, the military is so glamorized, and we're always told that soldiers are heroes. And not to say that they aren't. I don't wish to offend anyone who served or knows anyone who served. It's not an easy thing to do. Um, but I think it's not that they're saying that soldiers are jerks. I think what they're saying is that when people let power go to their head,
mm,
they become jerks. Because Avatar shows other people who are kind of fighting in the war as good. Like, all the people in the resistance in Omashu, like, yeah, they were a little like, gung ho about certain things, but they weren't bad people. They just wanted to save their city. And, you have, you know, people like the Kyoshi warriors who are sort of soldiers, but they're not. They're like a separate like task force almost. Um, you have all the men in the water tribe like Hakoda and Bato, who I guess you could technically say are soldiers, um, who are good and brave and heroic. And the difference between them and these like earthbender men are that they understand that war is not a game, and that it has to be taken seriously, and that as a soldier, as someone fighting, you have a lot of power, and you can either use it to try and make things better, or you can use it to abuse the people below you
mm.
and exert power. um, and I think that's the distinction you
Okay.
know
Um, so Zuko comes in, and the Earthbender soldiers look at him sideways.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, the loner, the stranger coming to their town.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he doesn't have enough to eat. He doesn't have enough money to like buy food to eat or to even feed his ostrich horse.
Yeah.
And we see Lee
Yeah, the
and
little
his
kid
friend.
Lee.
They throw eggs at the soldiers. They turn and they assume that it's Zuko.
Yeah.
They take his feed and it was like, thank you for your contribution.
Yeah.
Leave town. Unless you're gonna be in trouble.
The little kid Lee is like, thanks for not ratting me out. Hey, if you're hungry, you can come to my house. We'll like feed you. And he goes to see Lee's family. And they basically, are very accepting of him. And he doesn't need to tell them his name. He doesn't need to tell them who he is. All they ask is that, oh, could you help us fix something on our roof and we'll feed you. And that's kind of how this little friendship forms.
Mhm.
And while that's happening, Zuko is kind of remembering his past. And we learn a lot about his past.
Yeah.
Mm.
We see his mom.
We see his mother, Ursa.
Mhm.
We see him and Azula as children. We see his father. We see turtle ducks. We see turtle ducks. I love turtle ducks so much. They are like my favorite animal in Avatar. I love the turtle ducks
Yeah.
so much.
Why?
I just think they're so goddamn cute. I just think they're so cute. I just think they're so cute and sweet. And like, I want like a little turtle duck plushie. And like, oh, they're so cute. I love them.
I thought it was funny with the mom turtle duck
Yeah.
snapping
Yeah.
Zuko on his little leg. And it was just such an adorable moment when Ursa explains to Zuko, it's like, well, when you mess with a mother's babies, they're gonna bite you back. And
Yeah.
we see Zuko being happy and
Yeah.
everything, sad because he's not happy.
Yeah. No, he's
anymore.
not happy now.
Mhm.
I think it's very interesting. Because if that's how Azula like plays with the turtle ducks, it shows that even from a young age, she is being taught the wrong lessons. Because as a little kid, you might hurt an animal because you don't know any better, because it's kind of fun to like maybe like scare a bird. When you're little, you don't know better. But instead of being taught like, no, that's wrong, like Ursa does for Zuko, I assume that her father kind of encouraged that behavior or just ignored it. So she never learned to show compassion for other things. Because I don't think Azula was like born evil. I don't think that was the situation. I just think that the wrong ideas and the wrong impulses were nurtured in her. Yeah, but we see that Ursa and Zuko have a very like strong bond and that he loves her a lot and they spend a lot of time together. We also see that, Azula already at such a young age already has that anger at not being perfect and not being good enough. Because when Ty Lee is doing cartwheels and Azula can't do them, she pushes Ty Lee, which again is a very childish thing to do. It's not necessarily an evil thing to do, but because no one is telling her don't do that, it gets reinforced in her brain that she's allowed to, that it's okay. And I love that she's like, watch this. Hey, Mom, can Zuko play with us? And he's like, ew, no, you're girls. I don't want to play with you. And she's like, and Ursa's like, go play with your sister.
Man. And just at a young age, such a master manipulator.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like, don't you think that brothers and sisters should spend quality time together? And Ursa's like, you're right. Go play with your sister. Like,
Yeah.
flip that around.
Yeah. And Azula basically almost sets May on fire, and Zuko pushes her into the fountain because he panics. And like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
Because May has a little crush on him. And it's okay. So this is a little tidbit for people who like read the comics and stuff. I don't read the comics, but I love Zuko and May, so I know about stuff with them. And apparently, their like first like kiss was at a fountain. Like in one of the comics, I think their first kiss was at a fountain. And Zuko's daughter in Korra, in Legend of Korra, we don't know who her mother is. Most people assume that it's May, but her name is Azumi, and Azumi means fountain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. I think they're a cute couple. I like them. the interactions between Zuko and Azula in this episode that we see when they were children are very interesting because a lot of it is still fairly innocent. A lot of it, yeah, like she says like, "Hey mom, make Zuko play with us." But like little kids do that. Siblings do that.
Hmm.
And yeah, they definitely are antagonistic, but it's still I think fairly innocent. Like later on in the episode when Ursa gets the letter that Lu Ten passed, you see like Zuko and Azula playing. They're just running and chasing each other. Like
Right.
there was a time before things got bad, which I think makes me sad. It makes me really upset that like, and I'm sure it upsets Zuko too that like he can look back and remember a time when things were basically okay, and now they're not. You know?
Part of me feels like the only time, the times where things were okay
Mhm.
were before these flashbacks. So maybe when Azula was much younger,
Yeah.
because from what I get from these flashbacks, Azula was just always a troublesome little thing. Because even Ursa's just like, what is wrong with this child?
Yeah.
It's like who, like what kind of sibling comes to you in the middle of the night and is just like, Dad's gonna kill you?
Yeah.
No, really, he is. Like that's not good times right there.
No. Yeah, I mean, it I have a lot of feelings about the Fire Nation family.
Hmm.
you know, um I think obviously like okay. So I'm not a psychologist. I didn't write the show. I obviously don't know what the writers like were thinking necessarily. But I think it's just a case of the moment that Azula started to firebend, things changed.
Mm.
The moment that she started to firebend and showed a natural affinity for firebending in a way that Zuko didn't, I think Ozai like stuck his like talons into her, and that was it. That was it. Like what something that bothers me. Okay, something that bothers me is that in the fandom, Ursa tends to get a bad rap because people are like, oh, why didn't she do more to help Azula? Like, oh yeah, she obviously showed favoritism towards Zuko. Like Ursa didn't love Azula the way that she loved Zuko, and like Azula knew that, and that's why she like had that like breakdown and stuff. Like, as Ursa was a terrible mother. One, no. Two, I think that oversimplifies the situation, and I think it victim blames a little bit because do I think Ursa is Mother of the Year? No, I do not. Um, I think that there was definitely more that she could have done to help her children. However, when children are being abused, usually the mother is getting abused as well. It's not like she was off scot-free doing whatever she wanted. If Ozai was already so dismissive and cruel to Zuko and controlling and threatening to Azula, I highly, highly doubt that he wasn't the same way to Ursa. Not to mention Ursa had a job. She was busy being the fire lady. She had things to do. And I also think, the whole like favoritism angle, regardless of what your parents say, your parents usually have a favorite.
Right.
Does that mean that they love the one that's not the favorite less? No, it just means that they might get along better with the favorite, I say
Right.
with air quotes. And there's no crime in that. Just because Ursa did not get along with Azula as a child doesn't mean that she wouldn't get along with her better as an adult. I know plenty of people who, when they were kids, they just really they could not understand their parents and they just couldn't make it work. And it was just a bad time for all. But the second that they kind of became an adult and they saw things from more perspectives, they were like, oh, I get what my parents were doing. I understand why they treated me this particular way. Like, I can see them as a person now. And vice versa. Sometimes it's easier to like children than it is to like adults. So I don't think that Ursa didn't love Azula. I think she loved her immensely.
Mhm.
But I think she was afraid. I think she was afraid of what was happening. I think she was scared for Zuko. I think she was scared for Azula. I think she was scared for herself. And I think in her mind, the solution was to not make waves. Now, was that the best solution? I don't know. I don't think it was. But that's what she did. She said, I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to try and go against Ozai because it's going to end badly. All I can do is like just be there for my children in the way that I can. And, unfortunately, Ozai was a lot stronger than her and was able to hurt the children more than she was able to help them.
Right.
I also wrote a fanfic about this. If anyone wants to read it, I'm not going to link it because, that's embarrassing. But if anyone wants to read it, it's on AO3. I mean, just search Ursa. I'm sure you'll find it. Anyway.
Do you know details of the comments? Comics?
I do.
Yeah. Okay.
I know my fanfic is like not canon with those.
Okay.
I don't follow the comics because I don't like the way the comics did it. I don't like the way the comics did it. I'll say it.
All right.
I don't like the way they did it. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, I think Ursa deserves a little more compassion and respect from the fandom that I've seen. Because listen, her being like, what is wrong with that child? Do you know how many times my mom said that about me? Anytime I did something remotely weird or annoying, she'd be like, what is wrong with you, Brielle? Like, if you are a parent and you don't look at your child and be like, is this an alien? Whose kid is this? Then are you really a parent? Like, let's be honest.
That's true.
Something also that's really interesting about these flashbacks is we see Uncle Iroh before everything happened, and he was just as bloodthirsty and just as vicious and cruel as like Ozai.
Right.
I mean, he was writing a letter talking about how he was going to burn Ba Sing Se to the ground, and he laughs. They all laugh. He was not this kindly old man that we see right now. He wasn't always that, and that's very interesting to me because I feel like it's such a shift in personality.
But we also know that he was always kind of kooky too.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely was, but he was a general. I mean, he
Right.
wasn't messing around. But yeah, he was always a little like weird, as Azula says. So, yeah, I think that's a very interesting, kind of tidbit that Iroh had to go through his own change.
Right.
He wasn't always this peaceful, wise about other nations kind of person. He had to learn that. I also really like in this episode Zuko and Lee's interaction because it shows that Zuko is a good teacher. He knows how to teach people, like what he's teaching Lee about the swords. It kind of gives a little bit of foreshadowing to his teaching of Aang. Like we see him being able to connect with people very well, despite his own view that like he is a loner and that he doesn't need people or care about people. He's so good at connecting to people. He's so good at communicating with people. And I think that's a wonderful skill for him to have,
Yeah.
So yeah, basically he like helps out Lee's family while his Lee's brother is fighting the war, and then his father has to go fight the war, so it's kind of just him and his mom. And so Zuko kind of volunteers to help them out a little bit, and it's cute, it's sweet. And Zuko gives Lee this dagger that Iroh gave him, which is sweet. Sort of like passing the torch, basically.
Right. The funny little gags, like read the inscription, "Made in the Earth Kingdom." It's like, no, the other side. That
was funny. Yeah, that was funny. I like that gag. Something that is also very interesting to me is that Azula speaks like she's repeating words that someone else has said. Now, children can be very precocious and they can use a larger vocabulary. And I imagine that as a princess, she would be taught a larger vocabulary. However, when she's talking about Uncle Iroh and how her father should be the Fire Lord, not Uncle Iroh, especially after Lu Ten passes away and she's like, oh, well, he just fell apart and he's a loser. That sounds like something that she heard her father say and now she's just repeating. Because children at her age, which I assume is like 6 or 7, are like sponges. They just soak everything up and they just repeat it back. They just parrot. And so a lot of what Azula says sounds like things that an adult would say that she hears and repeats. It's just the way that she speaks and the vocabulary that she uses. I don't know if these are original thoughts that she has, maybe, but it sounds like she listens in to a lot of what Ozai talks about, and that's where her opinions come from.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So basically, Lu Ten passes away, and Uncle Iroh falls apart. And we see him bury his son under a tree, and it's very sad. And Zuko, even at that young age, kind of shows compassion and understanding for his uncle. I imagine that he knew Lu Ten, maybe not well because Lu Ten was so much older than him, but I imagine that Zuko's sad about Lu Ten's passing. This was a cousin that he probably, wanted to emulate and, memorialize and stuff. So that's sad. And so they go to Azulon, who is the current Fire Lord, and Azula shows off her firebending skills and her intelligence, and Zuko tries to, and he is just not good enough yet, and he kind of embarrasses himself, and Ursa comforts him and tells him, like, at least you tried, that's the most important thing. Something that I want to bring up is that Azula was named for Azulon. She was named after him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Zuko was named after anyone, but Azula was named after Azulon. They say that. And I just think it's interesting and a little sad that Azula has never been allowed to be herself. She's always been compared to someone else. She's never, even since she was born, she always was, her name was always connected with someone else's, and she always had to prove herself, even from, such a young age. I think that's very interesting and very sad, because while on one hand, it is a great honor to be named after someone, especially in their view, someone so powerful and brave and wise and a leader, I can't imagine that it wasn't a little hard sometimes to be compared to Azulon and be told that you have to be like this and you have to be like that. Zuko's childhood is very tragic, and he suffered a lot as a child. Azula did too, just in a different way. And I think, looking at it as a child, maybe you don't see that. But as an adult, it breaks my heart to look at the two of them and see the way that they were hurt, And Zuko is able to move past it. And Azula, we don't know if she's going to be able to move past it. I hope so, but
I mean, we do see her finally cave under all the pressure.
Yeah, in the later episodes, yeah. Basically, Ozai says, hey, so Iroh lost his son. His bloodline is over, and he's kind of like a mess right now. Like, he's grieving his son. What a baby. How about I become next in line instead of Iroh? What if you just, like, take away his birthright? And Azulon's like, the fuck? What?
The audacity.
The audacity. And Azulon's like, okay, if you want to be next in line for the throne, then you have to kill Zuko. You have to lose a son just like Iroh did. Which, like, what a loving family. What a loving and supportive family. Azulon must really love his grandkids. Like, that's horrible.
It is horrible.
That's horrible. Like, obviously, Ozai is terrible for suggesting it. It shows that he's power hungry. But like Azulon is like stone cold. He is cold blooded. He is like, sure, I'll do it. Like, I don't care about Iroh, but you have to kill Zuko. Like, what?
I didn't. He didn't necessarily say that he will do it, did he?
Oh, was I?
Azulon, that he will like skip over Iroh. I think he was completely offended by the idea. Like he wasn't for it at all. Like the whole kill Zuko thing was okay. So Iroh just lost his firstborn.
Yeah.
Now you, my secondborn, want me to betray my firstborn. Like you clearly don't have any type of compassion or anything at all. So to teach you that compassion, you have to kill your firstborn now.
Oh,
I think that's
okay.
Yeah, he wasn't saying that like, yeah, I'll do it. You have to kill Zuko. It's like, no, like you clearly don't understand this type of pain.
Yeah.
So kill your firstborn so you can understand exactly what Iroh's going through.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Even so.
Still, yeah.
That's still a terrible thing for your grandfather to say about you. So basically what happens is we go back to Zuko as an adult, and the earthbenders who are like terrorizing the town basically come to attack Lee and his family. So Zuko kind of steps in and fights them. He takes off his hat. His hair looks good. It's a little longer. It's a good cut for him. I like that haircut. It's got that little like fluff at the front. I like it.
Right.
I don't know if it's his best haircut, but it's good. Anyway, and he fights him, and once again we see Zuko's prowess in non-bending fighting. Like he really can hold his own in just hand-to-hand combat. Perhaps he kind of took a leaf out of Azula's book and focused on that for a while, because in this situation he can't firebend because he's in the Earth Kingdom and they're gonna get mad. So he's able to, with just his swords, pretty much like incapacitate all of the guards. And it isn't until he kind of has to that he firebends.
It kind of seemed like the others weren't earthbenders. Like,
yeah,
they were
it seemed like
common
just that
soldiers.
one guy was.
Yeah.
But yeah, watching Zuko like just tear these guys down was very, very fun. Just like he was barely doing anything. He was like using his feet and he was like kicking the staff and using his swords. It was cool. It was really, really cool. Had I been a child watching this, I probably would have been like, whew, okay. Because even now I'm like, whew, okay.
Okay.
Listen.
No, I get it.
Listen, Zuko's supposed to be really cute and he knows how to fight bad guys and he's got a tragic backstory, and you expect me to just not be affected by that? Like,
whatever. Okay, I guess. But for me, it's like the fact that they weren't really earthbenders. I was like, okay, that was like kind of like light work. It wasn't until he faced their leader that you saw him stumble a bit. And I couldn't help but think about when the time when Zuko rescued Iroh from the Ba Sing Se soldiers. Zuko was firebending the entire time.
Yeah.
Iroh wasn't.
Yeah.
So I saw that comparison. So although Zuko was holding his own for a while, it came to a point where like the earthbending became too overwhelming, and he was forced to firebend, which shows that he back to what you were saying before, how Azula could do it effortlessly, but she's a prodigy, and Iroh could do it effortlessly, but he's a legend. He's a pro. Zuko's just not there yet.
No, he's not. He's not, and that's okay.
Yeah, it is.
That's okay. But you're absolutely right. I think Zuko has the skill and the talent, but he just needs to work at it more. And I think that's part of his journey as well, that he needs to work at his firebending, work at his fighting skills in general. You know, these things don't come easy to him. And he says that in the first season when he kidnaps Aang. He says that like life has never been easy for him, and that things that came easy to Azula never did to him. And we see that. Yeah. We see that he really has to work for things. And basically he defeats that guy and he yells out to the crowd, I am Zuko, son of Ozai and Ursa, prince of the Fire Nation. Which, like, good for you, Zuko. You're accepting who you are, but maybe don't shout that in a
Mm,
town of Earthbenders. Maybe don't do that in the Earth Kingdom because you're wanted and a fugitive and they hate you. Like, maybe don't do that.
right.
Like, I'm proud of you, but maybe don't do that. Uh, and Lee and his family are like, no, get away from us. Like, we don't want you here. And he tries to give Lee the dagger, and Lee's like, no, get away. I hate you.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad. And he goes off alone again. Having, I think, kind of learned a little bit about himself, learned to maybe accept himself a little bit more. He learned how to put a roof on, so that's good. That's a good skill to have. And then it flashes back to, it's like the middle of the night, and Azula tells Zuko that, oh, Dad's gonna kill you. And Ursa comes and basically says to Zuko, like, I love you, be brave, you are, like, she just gives him a bunch of, like, really soft platitudes, and then she disappears. And then the next day, Ursa is gone and Azulon is dead. And Ozai is crowned Fire Lord, and things go from bad to worse.
Yep.
So what I want to talk about now is, when you were a kid, what did you think happened to Ursa?
That she died.
That she died. Okay, because I did too. What I thought happened is Ursa found out that Ozai was going to kill Zuko. So she went to Ozai and Azulon and said, don't kill Zuko, kill me instead. And so Azulon kills Ursa, and then Ozai kills Azulon. That's what I thought happened. I thought that Ozai was, mad and angry that Azulon not only asked him to kill Zuko, not because he cared about Zuko, just because, like, don't do that, and then killed his wife, and so he killed Azulon. That's what I thought happened. I thought that Ursa was dead, and Ozai killed Azulon. That's what I thought. And I think that's the better way. I think that's the better option than what the writers chose.
Why?
Whatever. Because thematically, it provides a connection and a parallel between Zuko and Azula and Sokka and Katara. Both of them lost their mother. Both of their fathers are involved in the war. Both of them have sisters that are, better than them at, like, bending and fighting and that sort of thing. Both of them, like Sokka and, like, Zuko, have to come to terms with being a man in their world. Yeah. And so I think it provides a better parallel if Ursa had been dead.
I get what you're saying. However,
Especially because it's not until, so I have a lot of beef with this plot point. I have a lot of beef with it. It's like one of the one things that I'm like, oh. Especially because we are not told that Ursa is just gone, like, missing, and not that she, like, until, like, the end of the show. Like, if they had kind of said from the beginning that Ursa wasn't dead, that she was just gone and missing, like, if Zuko had said, like, Azula said that she's dead, but I know she's not. I know she's still alive. Like, if he had said that earlier in the show, I probably wouldn't be as mad when they're like, oh, by the way, Ursa's still alive. You got to go find her. Like, it just, we can talk about this more when we get to that part in book 3, but just, like, the way that they talk about Ursa and the way they bring up her plotline and her exit, it really bothers me. It's like the one instance, I think, of bad storytelling and bad planning in the show.
Okay.
Like I said, we can talk about it more when we get there, but yeah.
All right.
Anyway, yeah. But it's good to know that like I wasn't the only one who was like, Ursa's dead. What are they talking about? Anyway. So yeah. So that's Zuko alone.
Yeah.
And now we go on to
The chase.
the chase. Which is like because the gang wasn't in that episode like at all. It was all like Zuko and Iroh and everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Which is cool. I think it speaks to the quality of the show that they can have an episode without the main characters, and it's a great episode.
Right.
You know. Okay, so this episode is I think really cute because like you get to see the kids all like laughing and having fun and like teasing each other. Like Sokka and Aang just being like ridiculous and silly and like playing around. I think that's cute because it's like, aw, like the other kids, like they're playing. It's great. But Toph is very, very self-sufficient, and she doesn't necessarily want to kind of help the group and join the group. She really keeps herself on the outskirts. You know, and that obviously rubs Qatar the wrong way because Qatar is very much like based on the community and like everybody does something and everybody pulls their own weight and not pulls their own weight. Everyone does their fair share and, you know, they all work together. And Toph's like, nah, all I need is me. Thanks for the ride.
I mean, the beginning of the episode is like a really good misdirect
Yeah.
because it makes you think like, oh, they're all getting along because this is the first time we've seen them all together.
Yeah.
Like actually interacting with one another. This is the team Avatar right now.
Yeah.
And they're laughing and the first misdirect is Katara saying, "Oh, I'm happy that we have another girl on the team because you guys are disgusting." And then Toph comes up with the fits. and then the second misdirect is the fact that they're all laughing.
Yeah.
Katara's laughing.
Yeah, I like that Katara
sneezes.
laughs.
Yeah, everyone's happy. And then the next scene, we see Toph by herself. Katara's just like watching her and just like, Toph, you may not know this. It's okay if you don't, but we like to like, you know, share delegate different tasks and everything. And I was just like, well, I already got my own food. I just got an earth in my tent and I'm good. So we're good.
See you in the morning.
See you in the morning. And Katara was like, yeah, that's good for you, but the rest of us. And Toph does like the classic little kid thing. It's just like, I don't understand what's the issue. Everything else, everything is fine and dandy. Like, I got this, I got that.
Yeah.
Why are you still talking to me?
Yeah.
And Katara's just like, all right, you know, it's cool.
Yeah. Toph and Katara, I really like their friendship because they're both such strong personalities that I think they definitely antagonize each other, but I think later on there's a real deep respect and care for each other. They just have to like get there first.
Right.
They have a couple of missteps, but I really do like their friendship because they're such opposites, and it's just I think they're funny together.
Mm-hmm.
This episode also has the weirdest animation, like when I was like, "Hey, Katara, calm down," and she's like, "I'm completely calm," and her like eye twitch. And then later on, like when Sokka like is yelling about something, he gets the same like weird face that's like, ah! Like this episode has really weird animation. They're like, how can we draw these kids to look disgustingly terrifying?
There's a picture on social media where they took that face on Sokka and put it on everyone else. Have you seen it? It's
maybe. And then I wrote like notes about this and I don't remember what it goes to because I wrote, love that Sokka's gotta have a thick skull. I don't know what that refers to. I think he like gets hit with something and it like breaks.
With Ty Lee.
Oh yeah, Ty Lee punches him and her hand, like she's like, ah!
He's like, nice try, but no.
Anyway, but that's later. Anyway, so they are trying to sleep and Toph is able to feel the rumblings of the machine coming. So they get up and they fly away. And the whole episode is basically like sleep deprivation because every time the gang lays down to sleep, the Fire Nation girls are like right behind them trying to capture them. Because Azula's like, I want the avatar now. Um, and like each time they stop, Katara's like, hey, Toph, we could really use your help. And she's like, no, I'm good. And we have the stars sure are beautiful, Toph. Too bad you can't see them.
Yeah, kind of a bitch move.
like on one hand, it's like Katara, she's blind. Of course she can't see them. But I think also, I don't know if Katara meant it that way. I think she meant it more like Toph is under her little rock tent. I don't think Katara meant it like Toph, you're blind, haha.
I mean, if you want to give her that leeway, sure.
I don't think Katara is that much of a bitch.
I mean, they're not saying that she is a bitch, but they're running on no sleep, and she's
Yeah.
kind of cranky.
Well, it's funny on two levels. It's funny because Toph was literally under a tent. She couldn't see. But it's also funny because, like, she's blind, you
Right.
know? Which, like, it's not funny to laugh at blind people, but, like, it is a funny joke. And I like that she, like, makes Katara, like, fall on Sokka. Yeah. But, so at some point, basically, Toph is like, I'm done. I'm done with this. I'm done with you yelling at me and telling me what to do. I'm leaving. And Toph goes off. And she runs into Iroh, and they have a nice cup of tea. And Iroh explains to her that there's no shame in accepting help from people who care about you. That there's no shame in getting help or in working with others. Which I think is Toph's lesson to learn. You know, Toph's kind of journey for the show, I believe, is learning to accept help from others, learning that she's not an island, and also just like getting friends. Because before Aang and the rest of them, she didn't have any friends. She was isolated, she was alone. And I think her journey in the show is learning to be a person with people, you know, learning to accept friendship, learning to accept love, learning to accept help, learning to work together as a team, which I think is a beautiful lesson to learn. And I think it's really great that Iroh is the one who kind of sets her on that path, that he is the one who kind of explains to her, you know, that it's okay to not always be by yourself. And he, you know, says that he's like following Zuko because he loves Zuko.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sweet. It's a very sweet moment.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense for Toph, because she was treated by her parents as if she was this helpless little girl that can't do anything for herself.
Mm-hmm.
So for her to finally essentially be on her own and then being told that she has to help others, it's just like, well, I don't need anyone's help, so why do people need my help?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
before she runs off, like in the midst of her running off and her telling off Katara and the gang, when Katara calls her selfish
Mm-hmm.
and she's just like, I'm selfish. I left everything that I had to come here and teach Aang earthbending, so don't call me selfish. And in my head, I'm just like, that's a fucking lie. Like, you came here because you wanted to get away from your parents. Yes, you're here to teach Aang earthbending, but don't act like you didn't have selfish needs,
Mm-hmm.
like selfish reasons to
Yeah.
join the
Ulterior
gang.
motives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I mean, they're kids. You know,
yeah.
kids, you know, don't always understand the impact of their actions, or, you know, they might think they're doing things for one reason, but there's multiple reasons.
Right.
So I don't know necessarily if Toph realizes that she is selfish, or maybe she does. I mean, you know,
I like
but
how
you're right. She is selfish,
she
but
is.
that's okay. I think that's okay.
I mean, everyone's a little selfish.
Yeah.
It's funny when when Katara just like, come at me, bro. She does the little thing. And
Yeah.
it's like, no more fight. She was like, no, I want her to come at me. Like,
Yeah.
let's do this. But yeah, it's great. What Iroh did for her, and like
Yeah.
they're talking. Even Toph gives Iroh a little something. It's like, maybe you should tell your nephew that you need him too.
Yeah.
That was sweet.
Yeah. Cuz I think, you know, one of the most important lessons that Avatar the show teaches us is that friendship and love is what saves people.
Mhm.
Is what changes the world. And I think that's so great. I really do. It's I feel like there's so much media in the world that's very dark and gloomy and nihilistic and cynical. And so for this show, even though it's a kid show and kid shows normally are happy and light like this, but for this show to be like, no, you want to know how we save the world? Through love, through compassion, through peace, through understanding, through friendship, through teamwork. I'm like, yes, that's good. That's what we should be focusing on. Like, I love that. Yeah. So, the kids are still running and they realize that the reason that Azula and her friends keep getting to them is because Appa is shedding and they're following his fur, basically. And so they give Appa a bath so he's not shedding anymore, and they kind of like go off onto different paths, and Katara and Sokka go off on Appa and Aang goes off alone. And May and Ty Lee fight Katara and Sokka. Sokka is cute, more at 11. Like, I love that Ty Lee's like, that guy was kind of cute. Listen, all the children in this show are apparently gorgeous. So whatever, I believe it.
When it was first revealed, like who was chasing them, and Sokka was just like, it's those ladies from Omashu or whatever. In my head, I thought he was gonna say it's those hot ladies
Oh.
from Omashu.
No,
you know.
Sokka respects women.
No, I thought he was gonna make a pun because they're from the Fire Nation.
Oh.
Hot. These are the jokes. Come on. I don't know.
You know what? It's probably a good thing you were a little too young to be working on Avatar if those are the jokes.
Oh, please. Everyone's a critic. Whatever. Whatever.
No, I'm teasing you. Yeah, so they fight, and Sokka and Katara are able to get away, and by crossing the river, and then it cuts to Aang like going into this like ghost town, and something that I really love about this scene is Aang throws the last of Appa's fur, and then he just looks around. He's alone, and he just sits and waits. And in that moment, I'm reminded that Aang is the reincarnated soul of like hundreds of people, because it's moments like that. And they happen a lot. It's not just like this episode, but it's moments like that when Aang kind of shows his age and his wisdom, because he could run. He could have dropped off Appa's fur and ran, but instead he's like, no, I have to stay and fight. I have to see what's going on. And in that moment, he's just so still and wise. It's just beautiful.
It is. Just real quick, back to Sokka and Katara when they're fending off against Ty Lee and May. Appa finally helps out, because in Kyoshi's Island, when they were ambushed by the Kyoshi warriors, where was Appa?
Yeah.
Nowhere to be found. In the Jet episode, when they get cornered by the Fire Nation camp, like they stumble upon it.
Yeah.
Where was Appa? Nowhere to be found.
Okay.
Appa finally helps out. Like Sokka and Katara, they're basically have their backs against the wall. They're defeated. May's just all like, I thought this would be more fun, but victory is boring. And Appa comes through and slaps his tail, and they go flying. Like,
Yeah.
finally, my boy, where were you? Where were you this whole time?
I know.
Other times, but
Oh man. You're right. Appa's yeah, that's Appa. He's very apathetic, I guess. He's like, or maybe it's like, Aang isn't here, so I gotta save these kids. Otherwise they're gonna die.
Maybe that's what it was.
I also love May. She's like, oh, victory's boring, whatever. Cause like with May, like she's clearly like doing this not for the love of the Fire Nation. She's doing it because she's got nothing better to do. Like I get it. I feel you. kind of like that. Yeah. So no, but you're right. You're absolutely right. That was a good point. Thank you for bringing that up. But yeah, so Aang is fighting Azula, and she's really good, and he's kind of having some trouble. And then Katara and Sokka show up to help him. And then Zuko shows up, and he's like, And it's this cool like three-way fight, like because they're all fighting each other. It's very cool. It's a really cool sequence watching Zuko, Azula, and Aang fight because they're all fighting each other. And then basically they like Aang is like running through this ghost town and he climbs up into this building and there's no floor, so he's able to float on the little like air ball, and Azula's able to like kind of catch herself, and then Zuko just goes face plant just
Charges
straight
right into
down.
it. Yep. It really shows the difference in skills between the two.
Yeah. It also, I think, reiterates this idea that I've had since the beginning that like nobody is free from a little like, I don't want to say humiliation, but nobody is free from, being, made a fool of. Like, everybody has their moment where they're like, they get like pie on their face, basically. Yeah. This was one of Zuko's. He has a lot, but just face play. Yeah, and then Iroh shows up and all of them, and Toph is there, basically fight off against Azula, which shows her power, that all of them needed to fight to be able to like stop her, which is crazy. Like they needed all the elements and they needed like, an extra firebender and a guy with a boomerang to like attack Azula and actually make a dent, which is crazy. And Azula sees like, I don't know if it's meant to be like a moment of hesitation with Iroh, or maybe it's just he's distracted because he notices Toph and he's like, oh, I met that girl. Oh, she's with the Avatar. Huh, small world. But Azula shoots lightning at Iroh and, knocks him down. And the image of Zuko like freaking out, that's such a cool image because he stays still and the camera like zooms in and like his face. Oh, that is such a cool image. And Azula gets away and Katara offers to heal Iroh. Even her enemy, Katara, is willing to help. And I think it's like, that's Katara. She has such heart and such compassion for people. And I love that about her. And Zuko's like, no, get away. Go away.
That part always makes me laugh because I can't help but just think that Iroh, I mean, he's unconscious, but if he was conscious, if he was just thinking like, no, I can use her help.
Yeah.
Please don't scare them off.
Yeah. But he does.
Yeah.
And so the gang is able to escape and go to sleep.
Yes. Finally.
Yeah, finally they go to sleep. All in all, it's a good episode.
It is.
Yeah.
Like you said, like very funny and weird animation. The way their faces are, how Toph reacts when Katara is like blaming everything on her. She's like trying to get some sleep, and she's like, what? And she grabs the ground, and the ground all crunches up. That's hilarious.
We also get to see Toph using her earthbending to hear people approaching, which is a really cool skill that she uses a lot later.
Yes.
Very cool skill. Yeah. All in all, I think it's a good episode. We get to see more cool fighting. And it's fun.
Yes.
So on to episode 9, which is Bitter Work. This episode is very funny because like the whole time like Sokka's trying to sleep and I'm like, mood. That's a mood right there. Like I too want to sleep. Poor Sokka, he just wants to take a nap. So today is the day Toph is going to start teaching Aang to earthbend. It's very exciting. Until Aang realizes that it's hard. It's really, really hard to learn earthbending. He doesn't have the right kind of viewpoints for earthbending. He has the wrong kind of temperament and disposition. And, he expects it to come really easily to him, like waterbending did, but it doesn't. And, and I think Toph is actually a really good teacher for Aang because, yes, Katara is like, oh, Aang responds really well to positive reinforcement and a lot of praise, and that's true. But I also think that Aang needs some tough love, because Aang's biggest problem, I think, is that he runs away when things get too tough. I mean, we saw him do that. That's why he's here, because he ran away from the air nomads, instead of facing his like destiny, basically. And to be an earthbender, he has to do that. He has to stand his ground and face whatever challenges are in front of him. And I think that's why Toph is such a good teacher for him, because she forces him to do it. Katara wouldn't do it. Katara would not force him to stand his ground and face his fears and his challenges. She would kind of not go easy on him, but she would be too soft on him, especially for something like earthbending. He needed someone tough, like
Right.
Toph, you know?
It's a different approach for each
Yeah,
element.
exactly. You know, just like Toph couldn't teach him waterbending, Katara can't teach him earthbending.
Right.
And Toph is a really good teacher. Like, she knows what she's talking about. You know, she's not just like she's not just like saying like punch a rock. Like, she actually knows how to be an earthbender and how to teach Aang. And what's great about Toph is that she teaches him her style of earthbending, which puts him above everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because she teaches him to wait and listen and to use the seismic sense. And I don't know if another earthbending teacher would know to do that, would teach Aang that. And I think it gives him an edge, which is great.
I mean, probably Boomy, since Boomy was the one that said you
Yeah,
need to find
Boomy
someone.
would, but like another earthbending teacher, I don't know
Right.
if they would.
Yeah, they wouldn't.
Because they wouldn't think of it like that. Yeah. So while Aang is being taught earthbending, Zuko and Iroh are kind of hanging out, laying low. Zuko brews Iroh tea, and it's disgusting.
Mhm.
I mean, you gotta love Iroh's like, very good, and then he tosses it out the window. And I also love that Zuko's like, I know, you'll tell me that Azula's my sister, and I have to like care about her. And Iroh's like, no, she's crazy and needs to go down. Like, on one hand, part of me is like, Iroh, you're an adult and she's a child, you know, and she's like a severely traumatized child. Like, maybe show a little more compassion. But then on the other hand, I'm like, no, she fucking attacked him. He deserves to be angry and like want her to like stop.
I mean, in this world, it's like you're not actually. These kids aren't actually seen as kids. The only kids who are seen as kids are, Lee or, um, what was that girl name? In the Aunt May,
Oh, Meng.
Mang.
Mhm.
Like they're seen as children,
Yeah.
but it seems as if you're above the age of 13, you're basically an adult in this
Mhm.
world.
Possible. That's also a very dangerous way of thinking,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because they're still children. And so the fact that they're treated a little bit like adults is not necessarily a good thing.
And also, this is a signs of the times because this is like the early 1600s or whatever.
Yeah,
I would imagine.
I mean, also from like a technical standpoint, because kids are the main characters, they have to be able to do everything that a character needs to do, including things that like you'd be like, why would a kid do this?
Mhm.
That's just the nature of it, you know, the nature of this, the show. Like, because they're kids, yes, they're children, but they have to do all this stuff, so we have to basically treat them like adults. Like, that's kind of just the technical aspect of it.
Because I'm just thinking about in Zuko alone, Lee's father calls Zuko a man,
Yeah,
not a boy.
yeah.
You know.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Hmm.
It's probably a combination of all those things. You
Hmm.
know, the kids kind of growing up faster than normal because they're fighting a war. They are so tremendously skilled. They're on their own. They're dealing with adults. They're not dealing with other children. And the fact that it's a kid's show and they're the main character, so they got to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But Zuko wants to learn how to lightning bend. And Iroh's like, all right, I'll teach you. And he explains that lightning bending is cold-blooded, that you have to kind of separate your emotions from your firebending. And Zuko is just not there yet. He's just way too emotional to even consider separating his emotions from his power. And Iroh knows this, but he still teaches him because it's a good skill to have. And so when he tries to teach Zuko the normal way, it doesn't work. And so he instead teaches Zuko a move from a water bending, form to kind of teach him lightning bending, which is so great. It's
Mm.
so amazing. It just speaks to Iroh's wisdom that he's able to look at all the other forms of bending and be like, there's wisdom to be gained. There isn't just one way to firebend. And I think that's so great. I think it's so great. I love that.
He teaches Zuko how to redirect lightning.
Yeah, redirect lightning. Again, because Zuko's not, he can't lightning bend.
Right.
And he never really does.
No.
He never lightning bends. He's never able to do that, which I think speaks to his character. Not his skill, because I think if he really wanted to, he could, especially when he's older. But it speaks to his personality and his heart that he can't lightning bend. And instead he just redirects it, which is very important. Yeah, but Iroh's speech about the four elements is so beautiful and profound, and the voice acting is just gorgeous. Like, Mako is just, he speaks so beautifully in this moment when he's explaining the four elements. It's just so good. I love that moment. And it shows that you can learn, you can and you should learn from everyone.
Mm-hmm.
That there is wisdom to be found in all things, in all different types of people. And that when we limit ourselves to one way of thinking, it hinders more than it helps. And I think that's true for everything.
Right.
I think, that's why it's so important for people in general to learn all that they can and look at different opinions and different points of view and speak to people who aren't like them, because it makes you a better person, a more well-rounded person.
That's true. Yeah.
Also, something that I want to bring up is it's not Zuko. Iroh says that the Airbenders were also known for their sense of humor. And I love that because we see that in Aang. We see that he's such a light and happy person, and that he's quick for a joke and a laugh, and he doesn't mind being silly and everything. And it makes me wonder if when the Fire Nation killed all the air nomads, if it wasn't just airbending that they lost. That they lost this lightness, this sense of humor, this jocularity, to use a fun word, that Aang not only is going to bring peace back to the world, but he's also going to bring lightness, And I like that idea, that the reason that Aang is so important and why it's good that he is the one to fix everything, is that he is an airbender, and so he's going to bring some, humor to the world, that it's too serious, and he's going to fix that,
I haven't thought of that. Yeah.
So, meanwhile, Sokka goes to get food, and he falls into a hole. And his whole storyline in this episode is that he's stuck in a hole talking to a baby saber-toothed moose lion. And they are adorable, and their name is Fufu Cuddly Poops. The Adventures of Sokka and Fufu Cuddly Poops. Very, very cute. I love it. I love that Sokka's like, if you get me out of here, I will give up meat, I will give up sarcasm, and those are the two facets of my personality, so I'll just do that. I'll just be a guy.
I'll be Sokka, the vegan, straightforward talk guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's funny. I love that it just goes back to him, and he's just like still in the hole talking to the baby. But Aang basically has a moment where he's like, I can't do it. I can't be an earthbender. I can't be this way. And he basically gives up. And it kind of reminds me of when he learned firebending, that very brief moment. Again, because he went into it gung-ho, and then he realized that it actually wasn't going to be super easy, and he kind of quits before he can get hurt, basically. Not physically hurt, but like emotionally hurt. And Katara basically explains to him that maybe the reason that he's having such a hard time is because earth is the opposite of air.
Right.
And she's absolutely right. I mean, not only just basically because water is the opposite of fire, earth must be the opposite of air, but also because Aang is such an airbender. He's like the quintessential airbender where he's light on his feet and he's always around, like jumping around and flying. And so it is really hard for him to sink into the ground and stay still and focus like that. So it is really hard for him. And I feel for him in this episode that he is having such trouble with it. You know, it can't be fun and it can't be easy.
Right. No one likes to feel like a failure,
Yeah.
which was he's basically feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um. Yeah, but then Aang goes off to find Sokka, and Sokka's like, "Hey, please help me."
Do you have any meat?
Yeah. And the baby's mom comes out, and she is terrifying. She is a saber-toothed moose lion, which is like, what a weird combination of animals. Again, it makes me wonder about the evolution of that because lions and moose are not the same thing.
Mm.
Like, yes, they're both mammals, but they're both very different kinds of mammals, and I just wonder how that happened. Not gonna lie though, but like, they're kind of cool and badass.
Yeah.
Like, I know that like it's just a gag, a one-off thing, but like, how fun would it have been if like Fufu Cuddly Poops came back and like Sokka was like, "This is my pet saber-toothed moose lion." It's like this huge thing. I saw like art. I saw this like piece of art that was like imagine if like Sokka kept Fufu Cuddly Poops and like raised him and like that was his like appa basically. He's just running around on this huge like animal. Would have
That'd
been
be cool.
badass.
Yeah, it
Would have
would've
been
been.
badass. Yeah. So Aang tries to stop her, the mom, with airbending, and that doesn't work. And so he has to save his friend. He has to like dig deep and double down and use earthbending, and he does, and it's great.
Yes.
And it's such a great moment for him. And Toph is there the whole time watching him, and she's like very proud of him, and it's sweet.
It's like you got the guts, man. You got the stuff. You
Yeah.
just stood up against this giant beast, but even more impressively, you stood up to me.
Mhm.
Like I thought that line was really cool.
Yeah.
And it's like earthbend right now, and he earthbends, and he gets excited. He's gonna earthbend Sokka, and Toph is like, "No, you might crush him.
Yeah.
Let me do this."
You got more to learn. But I think that's such a great moment because, you know, Toph and Aang are the same age.
Mhm.
They're each other's equals. And so for him to be able to stand up to her, I think really gets her respect, you know, because even though they're the same age, I feel like Toph kind of looked down on him. And so this is a moment that she's like, "No, we're equal," you know, which I think is great.
And on the flip side of that, Iroh teaches Zuko how to redirect lightning.
Mhm.
He gets the flow. Feel the flow.
Yeah.
He gets the flow, and he asks Iroh to shoot lightning at him. And I was like, I'm not gonna do no such thing. Are you
Yeah.
crazy? And this part always stood out to me as a kid. Zuko says he's gonna go and get his own lightning.
Mhm.
He stands on the top of this big mountain and he yells at the sky saying, "Go on, you never held back before." This always boggled me as a kid because I I kind of just like fell into Avatar. Like I just started watching book 2 randomly without watching book 1.
Mhm.
So when I first watched this episode, I thought maybe this was a reference to something in book 1 because I was like, who is this person that he's talking to that's saying that you never held back before? So when I watched book 1 and there was no type of interaction like that, I was like, who the fuck is he talking to? But now today, do you think he's like talking to God or like?
Yeah, I literally wrote, "Meanwhile, Zuko yells at God." Um No, I think he's just yelling out into the world.
Mhm.
Like you've never held back before. Like his life has kind of been nothing but struggle and pain. So why now shouldn't lightning strike him?
Mm.
You know? Like every other time that he's tried to do anything, it's always ended in like failure and pain and anger. So why shouldn't lightning strike him?
Right.
Here he is yelling at, maybe not God, but like yelling at the world, like, I'm angry. I want pain. I want suffering. Give it to me. You've never held back before. I think that's kind of what he's doing. He's also an incredibly emo 16-year-old boy. So like that's part of it. But yeah, I just think it's like Zuko just like looking at his life and being like, my life sucks. Like it's terrible. And the only way I'm ever going to find peace and find success is through my pain. So come at me,
Right.
which is not true, but he doesn't know that yet. And so that's, I think, his situation.
And this is the second episode. Not second, but this is one of like the few episodes where it's happy on Team Avatar side. And then we end off on like a very bittersweet note for Zuko.
Mm-hmm. It's bitter work.
Bitter work.
Yeah.
Roll credits.
Yeah. Yeah. All in all, these are some really good episodes.
Mm-hmm.
These are some really good episodes. We learn a lot about the characters, and I enjoy that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just one more thing in the chase, when they're like thinking who could be chasing them, and it was the Osaka Katara. It was like it could be Zuko. We haven't seen him since the North Pole. It really paints like how much time has passed.
Oh yeah, that's true.
It's like damn, like how long has it been since they seen Zuko? And even just Toph asking who's Zuko, it's like wow, all right,
Yeah.
a lot of time has passed.
Yeah, I mean, but also I think it's important because like later on when Zuko comes to the gang, like Toph is the one who kind of reaches out to him because she wasn't there for his crazy. Yeah, this episode, this season is very interesting because the main antagonist switches from Zuko to Azula, so he kind of has his own story and the gang has their own story, and they occasionally like intersect but not really until the very end when they're like, oh my god, Zuko, hey, what's up? Like
And one more thing with the chase, I forgot all about this. I'm just remembering things.
No, it's okay. I talked for a long time.
No,
this
you're
episode
fine.
is going to be me talking, and I'm so sorry.
With the shot with Zuko, Aang, and Azula, watching it now, I like, oh, this is a little foreshadow because they have the same exact shot, or like if not the exact but similar shot when they're in Ba Sing Se, and Zuko has to make a choice whether to side with Azula or go side with Aang.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah. Also something funny, like I noticed is like when all of them are shooting at Azula with their bending, Sokka just throws his boomerang. Like I appreciate your spirit. I don't know if that's gonna help. Like he's got the spirit. I think you're a little confused though. But like, what's your boomerang gonna do?
I mean, it could do something. I mean, even freaking Toph is just like, well, it's 3-on-3, and Sokka's like, I'm here too. But
I love that actually.
But it's like Ty Lee and May doesn't bend, so
Yeah.
it's like, wouldn't it technically be 1-on-3?
Yeah, right.
If we're going by Toph's logic,
Yeah, right.
like damn.
Well, because you know what it is? I think Toph at this point in time doesn't think Sokka is like a valuable fighter on the team. I mean, she learns that he is, but at this moment in time, she's like, nah, he's just the sarcasm and meat guy.
Oh yeah, but these were a nice batch of episodes.
Yeah.
And this is another one where it went to the next episode, and it's the library. I'm like, shit.
Yeah, it's a good episode. Yeah.
Next week.
Yeah, I think a lot of like Toph's growth as a character is like learning to respect other people as well. Like, yeah.
Definitely.
But yeah, next episode's gonna be good.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you liked this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. You can find us on Anchor, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube. Please comment. Like, I wish that people would like comment and like let us know what they think.
Yeah.
You know, we want to know what people like think about these episodes and what do you like? What do you not like? Tell us things that we can improve on. We probably won't listen, but we will see you next week.
Yes. Next episode.
Yes, next episode.
All right.
Bye.